How is it that certain Hogs can recognize the terrible material conditions and engage with terrible things happening in prisons and completely disregard that when voting? Most people in general just don't have like a consistent worldview, but Americans especially do not have a consistent worldview. And that is capitalist dogma. Capitalist dogma has within it inherent contradictions, whether it be the constant class clashes, the antagonism amongst the classes. But for capitalism to survive and thrive, there needs to be institutions created to reinforce that this is a naturally occurring phenomena and that the oppression that you are and the struggle that you're experiencing is due to your own lack of motivation or just due to your own morality, even in certain instances, like you're a bad guy, that's why you're suffering, because poor people suffer because they're bad, or maybe some other red herring. And given that Americans are hyper individualistic and also incredibly entitled, you will never allow them to see that the very people that they are voting for are those who are stealing money from their pockets. Matt Christman is right, yes, when he said Americans view politics not as a way to change material conditions, but as a way to punish people they don't like. And that is born out of, one, the thing that I just mentioned, every institution that you experience, that you live with, that is delivering information to you, is telling you that all the brutal conditions are normal and there's no other alternative, but also century of inaction from either party in a direction that helps improve their material conditions. I cannot think of a singular moment in contemporary American history where Americans saw with their own two eyes their government doing things that just objectively benefited them, benefited their material conditions, truly improved their lives. I don't mean just in a marginal way, and I don't mean in a way that where they were like, wow, the government does have my back. There are two instances that come to mind. One is the COVID checks, which were cleverly titled Trump bucks. And the other one is the ACA, which of course had a multi-billion-dollar propaganda machine working against it, which is why the Affordable Care Act was billed as Obamacare and was lied about non-stop as though it was actually creating death panels, which is also known as triage, which ironically did happen during COVID and continues to happen in rural areas, and also was lied about endlessly and was also done in a way where incremental marginal change occurred. It wasn't like as broad sweeping as possible. There were incredible provisions in it that were super successful. And then there were provisions in it that were basically billed correctly as a mechanism to take further tax dollars and give it to the insurance industry. The ACA in and of itself was quite literally first implemented by a Republican governor who went and ran against Obama. Mitt Romney, when he's the governor of Massachusetts, implemented the ACA in the state of Massachusetts. That's number one. And two, the ACA was, and a lot of people forget this, created by the Heritage Foundation in the 90s as an alternative to real socialized healthcare. And even then, the ACA was gutted at the federal level, at least, by the constant, most successful American principled political position of states' rights, which of course is not principled at all, but only weaponized against whatever kind of good civil liberties, advancement in civil liberties, or whatever kind of good social safety nets that the federal government is trying to implement. Yeah, no public option. That was already gutted, destroyed, again, by forces within the Democratic Party, for the record. Then it was gutted again by the Supreme Court. It was allowed to be eviscerated in red states where governors refused to take additional federal subsidies and help to expand Medicaid, only to have every single one of those states slowly but surely voted on ballot measures 10 years after the ACA was implemented in certain instances because it was done by Obama. And every step of the way, the very same Americans that would benefit the most from Medicaid existing in their state in the way that it was supposed to, or even socialized medicine, were advocating against it. So every part of the political machine in the United States of America works against the material interests that the voters have. And after a century of this sort of, either on the Democratic side, negligence, feckless ineptitude, or on the Republican side, outright disdain for the working poor and policies of deregulation, Americans have completely given up on the prospect of their federal government genuinely helping them. Most terrifying thing you can hear from anybody is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. That's the mentality, the Reaganite mentality of starving the beast. Truly accelerated this disdain that Americans have for big government. And that is precisely the reason why Americans just don't feel, understandably, that their government is there to help them. So in an environment like that, you can't help but see the only thing that does work, which is cultural wedge issues that were crafted mostly by the Republican Party in an incredibly reactionary manner to drive a wedge between the two parties to make it seem like either party is actually working on things that are dramatically different that people vote on, and it becomes spite-based. American politics is purely spite-based for that reason, where it's not about voting for any kind of like material change in a positive direction for yourself, but instead about stopping other people from enjoying things that they want to stop. If you're a Democrat, you look at Republicans, what are they enjoying? Shooting guns. By the way, I do agree in gun control, for the record, make no mistake, but shooting guns, being racist, whatever the fuck. And you want to stop that. You want to take their toys away. You want to take their F-150 pickup trucks away. You want to take their burgers away. On the other side, Democrats enjoy what? Civil liberties, such as having access to medical care that you still have to pay for, but at least you have some level of bodily autonomy over your own body. Republicans are like, nope, not on my watch. Don't want that. Kind of funny to consider it like this. It's kind of funny to talk about it like this, but it is the way it works. On the one hand, you want to implement gun control and things of that nature because you understandably see how devastating guns have been in this country, which the Republicans are like, no, absolutely not. Pry from my cold dead hands. On the other hand, Republicans are like, oh, do you enjoy medical freedom? F you. It's a bit silly when you describe it like this because wedge issues are inherently reactionary because they've been crafted and cultivated in a laboratory by Republican psychopaths. So of course it's still one-sided. But at the end of the day, Matt Christman is correct. Americans understandably feel like their government is not there to help them. The government hasn't helped them in many, many years. So we might as well use the government to harm our opposition, take their treats away, sometimes for good reasons and maybe sometimes for bad reasons. Now, I don't even know if we can change that because in order to change that, you have to actually do things. More of these loan forgiveness, for example, things of that nature need to happen where people do genuinely see the government helping them. And it will take time, but both the Democrats and the Republicans understand that and see it as a terrifying prospect because if American people dare to dream that the government can help them at a certain point, well, then they're going to demand more. And that puts every politician at a shitty impasse where they actually have to do work instead of constantly blame the opposition for the gridlock and go, oh, we just can't do anything about it. You know?